This is Steve Carlson. I have a suit against the state of Minnesota because they violated the Constitution. They put direct and substantial restrictions on the exercise of free speech by withholding emails which they collected, the Democratic Secretary of State collected under the Help America Vote Act, HAVA, and purported to offer to me to buy those email addresses. And then just weeks before the election was to occur and I was preparing to contact these voters, they withheld those and the law required them to not release those. Their way of endorsing candidates in the Democratic Party seriously violates the U.S. Constitution. And they admit this. They admit that if they were bound by the U.S. Constitution, that requiring a quota for gender and for race and for any other group would violate the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. But they claim they are not bound by the Constitution. Now, I presented a case to the federal court and the state Supreme Court that in fact they are bound by it in the same way that a direct primary was bound when people in U.S. versus Classic down in Louisiana were claiming that the Constitution did not reach direct primaries. It reaches precinct caucuses and direct primaries. So instead of responding to this, they are bringing to Michael Davis, the judge, they are bringing to him a motion that they should be able to strike my response and seriously disadvantage me. And so what I have done is I have asked for a continuance of this case to let the state of Minnesota address these issues, because the Constitution gives to the states autonomy in the conduct of elections for Congress. And so here is my response from Mark Ritchie's representative, Nathan Hartshorn. Hi, Mr. Hartshorn. This is Stephen Carlson. How are you today?
Mr. Carlson, just fine. How are you?
Doing all right. Say, I wanted to check with you. I'm going to file a motion for a continuance, and also I'd like to just ask the court, if you would agree with me, to just extend the time under the local rules, to just accept your motion, my response, and your reply. Would you agree to those things?
Well, I need to run it by my client, but my guess is that my client will not be interested in that. The Secretary and Mr. Black would like to get this case over as quickly as they can.
Well, you know, I was just reviewing those, the time that we talked about, you know, remedying the meet and confer miss on with the first filing of the motion. I was noticing that the court acted on January 2nd, which is the date you say that it had to be filed. The response needed to be filed, but they waited until that time, and then they said you did not meet and confer. So how can you even think that it was filed on that date? So I just think that it's fine that you should be able to file a motion to dismiss, but I think it's highly irregular to be trying to strike it given these circumstances. So can you just send me an email after you talk with your clients?
Interested in the continuance?
Yeah, so I can include that.
Sure. How long of a continuance are you contemplating?
Well, I mean, doesn't it make sense to wait until the Minnesota Supreme Court acts? I mean, they have the power, do they not, to autonomy basically in the conduct of their state, of the elections, you know, their representatives to Congress. And so, you know, I think that the court should defer to that and let them go ahead in the Supreme Court work this out and determine some of the facts and the issues, and then see if there's anything left for the federal court. I would think there would be, because of the constitutional basis for the suit that was filed, and you know, maybe that'll be totally addressed and binding even on a federal court, so it would just become, you know, moot in some sense.
Okay, and that's an argument you're welcome to make to Judge Davis on Friday or sometime thereafter, but that's certainly not something that defendants agree with.
So anyway, so I'm going to probably just assume, unless you inform me otherwise, that you're not going to be amenable to these ideas in the motion, and they'll have to be submitted to the court.
That's a safe bet, and I'll do what I can to consult my client and get you an email as soon as I can, probably verifying that assumption of yours.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hartshorn.
Okay.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Look, all I'm saying is that Mark Ritchie is the chief elections officer in the state of Minnesota, and if he is not going to ensure that we follow the Constitution in this state, then who is? Is it going to be Mark Dayton? Is it going to be Betty McCollum? Is it going to be Amy Klobuchar, former Hennepin County attorney, and now a senator? Where do the Democrats stop, and when do they begin to follow the Constitution of the United States? That's my question.